And queen takes f3. Oh, what is going on? Oh, this is going to be a fortress. I just don't see any hopes at all. This is very easy. Just rook back and forth.
Taking chess to the next level.
Wow. Wow.
Wow, yeah, nothing else to say, wow.
Creating the future of the sport. Introducing the Champions Chess Tour. 10 months, 10 tournaments. The world's best players online and on TV.
And queen takes f3. Oh, what is going on? Oh, this is going to be a fortress. I just don't see any hopes at all. This is very easy. Just rook back and forth.
Taking chess to the next level.
Wow. Wow.
Wow, yeah, nothing else to say, wow.
Creating the future of the sport. Introducing the Champions Chess Tour. 10 months, 10 tournaments. The world's best players online and on TV.
Hey, this is Peter Svidler playing my first ever Premium Arena. Starts in about 20 seconds, so not much time for preambles. I'm still in St. Louis, flying home tomorrow. My tournament results here were not everything I would have wanted them to be, honestly, but what can I say? It's over now, so no point crying over spilled milk. So yeah, good luck to my opponents. Let's play some chess. Let me just move this to a different screen. Grand Prix in the first game, which is always a problem for me. Bishop b3 is a bit confusing because I think I've been having some issues with maybe actually not in this position. I'm trying to remember. People were sort of beating me in this line in banter blitzes for a while, but not playing bishop b3 and queen d2, even though it does look honestly fairly logical. We will get some kind of a strange dragon type position where the knight is on g1 instead of d4, which I assume has to be somewhat in my favor. Just sort of counting the tempi, I'm guessing I'm a decent amount of tempi ahead compared to the main dragon, but of course the knight doesn't have to go to g4. It can go to like g4, knight g3 is one plan here you might consider, or of course just bishop h6 and then h4, h5. This is also, I don't think you should be taking on g7 this early, because this allows me an option of meeting h4 with h5, which I normally would not have had. Already, like, 95 probably forces my opponent to play 94, and then you can sacrifice an exchange on f3, on c3, but I'm looking for something more ambitious. I'm honestly not a particularly good dragon player, so my instincts here are not very trustworthy. b5, I think, is just completely off topic. I'm wondering about some move like bishop b6 to move the bishop away, knight from f6 to d7, but that doesn't seem right either. I'll just go knight e5, rook c3. It cannot possibly be, entirely wrong, even though, I mean, that endgame is not that much fun without the bishop on g7. What are my other options? I can go knight c4, I suppose, but then I'm just slightly worse for no particular reason. Dragon is a tricky opening. I've only ever played it with the white pieces, so as I mentioned, my instincts here are, yeah, I know this is wrong, but I also didn't like any of the other options. So I've gone with this without really liking this for a second. This is a good move. G5 knight h5 was unpleasant but playable. Waiting for me to play h5 and then playing g5 deprives me on the h5 square, which makes a great deal of sense. I guess we will pretend that there is no mate in chess. Knight d2 is a little bit of relief, honestly, because I think I'm getting mated slower now. I would very much like to already have the bishop on a6 in positions like this. Gh knight h5 and then rook g1, rook g5 is obviously also a serious problem for me. But you can play bishop e6 and then maybe after rook g5 I have rook c4, c5, which is not that horrible. I have absolutely no reason to like my position, but it's not as... And this move, this is the first move my opponent made that I kind of severely dislike. I don't think this is correct. Giving me such a comfortable sacrifice on c3 cannot possibly be correct, I think. I can even follow it up with bishop e6 before I take on c3. I really liked what my opponent was doing up until this moment. I think after g5, white is much better. But even in this position, as long as you keep the knight on e2 alive, it's very difficult for me to launch any kind of immediate counterplay. So, felt like I was in a lot of trouble, honestly. But now I think I'm just doing excellently well because bishop e6 is coming, and then the entire queen side is about to collapse. It's going to be quite difficult for my opponent to keep this afloat. Yeah, rook d5, I understand why this move has been chosen, but the end result is just completely unattractive. Like, I can even maybe take on d5 here, and if h5, I have g5 as a reply. And this rook ending is just completely lost. I'm a pawn up, and I have a better structure. White has all of these weaknesses I can prey on. The king is also, my king is much more active than my opponent's king, so you can just start creating passers in the center because they will just win. Probably shouldn't have allowed rook e4, but I mean the position remains completely winning. You can go rook d8, rook d4 here, or if rook d4 is hard stopped, of course I have rook d3. So that was a bit of a risky pre-move, but not as risky as all that, if we're honest with ourselves. I don't have to give up anything just yet, but I'm honestly completely fine with giving up something on the queen's side, and rook e3, e4 just wins the game on the spot the moment it happens. This is just a queen. In any number of ways. c4, e3 is the cleanest, but most moves will win there. I don't know how seriously I'm supposed to be, taking the opening phase of the game. Like, if this were a banter blitz, I would be playing all kinds of random openings, but whenever there's a word arena in the title, you feel like maybe you're supposed to be tryharding a little bit. So it's a kind of a weird mixed spot. I don't know about bishop e7. Bishop e7 is a move, aimed at playing knight f6 and then not having to capture with the queen, but it also is a lot more passive than what black normally does in these types of Rubinsteins. I'm tempted by knight e5, but like, I don't need to make this move, but making bishop c6 slightly more difficult to play for my opponent definitely makes some sense. This is a decent reply, of course. Still playing bishop c6 is logical. I can go knight g5, but I don't really have a refutation for the short castling there. And if I take on c6 and play c3, e6, e5 is not stupid at all. So my previous move may have been actually inaccurate. For all I know. This is still the best that I have. There are some tactical possibilities not to allow the mass simplifications in the center if e6, e5 actually does happen. But the way this game has been progressing so far, I was expecting my opponent to continue trading, and then once this happens, it's much, much harder for black to push for those same simplifications. And white ends up with a very comfortable, actually quite significant advantage, because the knight on c6 is completely misplaced. The same position with the knight on d7 and the pawn on c6 would have been slightly better for white, but not anything dramatic. But the way the black pieces are, it's extremely difficult to actually move this knight anywhere without losing the b7 pawn. And in the meantime, I can start gaining space on the king side. Something like g3, h4 is very much part of the plan. And once I've solved the back rank issues, I can maybe even in some positions consider pushing d4, d5, just to get some space for my bishops. Because currently my edge is. I can also just take on c6 almost on every move, because as I mentioned, this is I understand the reasoning behind this decision, but I can just take on b7, and it's a healthy pawn we now have as an extra pawn. I think we just play b3 here. Somewhat regrettably, after knight d5, I will have to take on d5, relinquishing my bishop pair, but a healthy extra pawn is a decent enough compensation for not having the two bishops. Just making sure I don't blunder anything, back rank related. I will take on e6 because my opponent will have to take with the pawn, and that gives me an additional target to play against, to go with my extra pawn here. I have the stream open on a different screen, and apparently some people have already won like 3 games. How do they do that? Is there a way to shorten the time control so that we can, chase properly? Somebody's on 12 points, which I assume is 3 wins. If it's 4 wins, I don't even want to think of how you can achieve 4 wins in the 10 minutes we've been playing. This position would have been quite annoying for black, even if the pawn on b7 was still alive. Without the pawn on b7, it is just completely lost. And I probably should, instead of watching the stream, I should be reading chat, right? Are you going to be watching The Wheel of Time? Yeah, I'm planning to watch The Wheel of Time. That trailer was. I've read the first book of the series, but I've read the first book of the series a very, very long time ago. I cannot claim I remember very much. But people who have read it and still remember are saying that the trailer is extremely true to the source material. And that always is a very good sign. And those books are obviously, it's the absolute classic of the genre. Yeah, I think the way to win this position is just to, somewhat regrettably, just to trade the queens off and win the rook ending. And yeah, I understand my opponent not wanting to allow me to do that, but then he gets mated, of course. Then he gets mated. Is there a way to see how many points I have at least? Somebody tell me how many points I have. I would like to know how far behind, off the lead I am. This has become kind of fashionable, but yeah, maybe 96 wasn't even required. I think maybe this was, but I'm kind of happy playing this position because I used to play this with white, and I don't think it's very good. In particular, if you castle kingside, the whole point of this line is to castle queenside, and then go for some kind of a pawn march on the kingside. In particular, if instead, yeah, this is just not what this opening is about. You're basically, like, by doing this, you're busted by move 14 with white without really asking black to make a single difficult decision. This is not why queen takes d4 was a thing. I kind of famously lost a game in this line to Garry Kasparov famously in my mind, not really famously, but famously in my mind. I lost the game in this line to Garry Kasparov in Linares 99. But I did castle queenside, of course. I wasn't playing like this. Garry played a very nice game against me that day. And he is still beating me with the black pieces 22 years later. 22 years later, yeah. Beat me like a drum yesterday in a 960. That was not a very good game by me. Yeah, I'm just gonna collect pawns. I don't really like. There's maybe some ways to finesse it, but I don't really need to finesse anything here. Just going after the queen side is plenty good enough. No shame in losing to that guy. Yeah, I'm not ashamed. I'm just saying that game in 99 was the first game I ever lost to him. No, that's a lie, actually. I lost 2 in a row in 99. I lost one in Vike, and then I lost one in Linares. So I went from being on +1 with some draws to being -1 with some draws in the space of like 2 months that year. Against Garry in particular, not in general. Kind of tempted to like make a luft, but it's not, strictly speaking, required. Maybe stopping knight b5 is not the stupidest idea in the world. But it's, as long as I continue paying attention, it's a reasonably easily convertible position. I did blunder f3, bishop d5, knight f5 though, which could be a bit of an issue if my opponent spots knight f5. It creates some tactical problems. Maybe not even insignificant tactical problems, but let's see if my opponent sees it. Because knight e7 check is an incredibly, incredibly annoying threat there. For instance, bishop takes a2, knight e7 check, king h8, and rook d8 just straight up wins for white. This is a Sankitson-Nevis flag. I did not change federations, but I just like this flag. First off, and secondly, I changed it for that Halloween tournament I was playing in, because I realized I have rook c7. Ball is not lost. I didn't see rook c7 at first. At some point, I realized that they renamed our accounts from the admin side, but they did not change, date of birth, flag, all kinds of things. The rating stayed the same. So I thought I should commit to the bit and try to make my account as unrecognizable as possible. So I changed the flag. Yeah, I mean, Gary is still very, very good. Hot take number 1 today. People who thought after whatever it was, Zagreb, that Gary, no longer can play chess were slightly off base. And I knew that for a fact because we played some training games before that event, and I did not get 50% in those training games. The immediate 95, I think, was slightly more precise, but I've actually not been the most accurate here, and I now have some new problems to solve, which I really should not have had at all. This is kind of annoying that this game is sort of still alive when it really, by rights shouldn't be. I guess we go with this. It's not very pretty, but it should do the trick. Yeah, because the king escapes via this. I've answered that question so many times, Quang GM, that honestly I'm slightly bored of it. Yeah, this, I could have converted much cleaner, but, apart from the fact that we're winning, h4 is a nice move, and now h3, and actually, yeah, okay, this is slightly unfortunate. I would have won on time, though, most likely. But yeah, that conversion phase from some moment on was just kind of disgustingly horrible. Yeah, that emotion I very much recognize, Cookie Monster, where it's a very, very sad feeling when you know that you used to be extremely good at something and you can still do it, but nowhere near as well as you used to be able to. And yeah, it causes great sadness. How about Rosen or Bartholomew? That's a tough one. Yeah, that's a tough one. But, one plays the Scandian, the other doesn't. So I think you can very easily polarize on that one topic and choose the side that you prefer. One plays the London, though. Yeah, that probably disqualifies one. And yeah, hey Archer, how you doing? John is actually much stronger. Yeah, I think in terms of pure chess strength, if such a thing exists, from what I've seen of John playing, he is I wanted to say low key a very strong player, but maybe it's not even that low key. I'm continuing with this b3 crap, which you really shouldn't be doing, but it's sort of fun to try. At some point, I actually took time out of my busy schedule to figure out why it's not good. And there are specific reasons for why this is not good, but... Who's the best cricket player? I mean, which discipline? Once again, it's such a wide question. Historically or right now, it's about as flame worthy as the Carlsen Kasparov dichotomy. I don't know why I'm castling queenside, but basically I feel like playing b3 on move 6 and then not castling queenside, you are kind of breaking guild rules. You're doing something borderline illegal because you've announced that you're planning to have fun and then you just rescind the invitation to have fun. EF4 is just no. If you play Sicilians, unless you're absolutely forced to, do not make this move. The bishop on b2 is now very much alive. I have these squares for pieces. f5 is no longer, I mean, it doesn't really help with the threat of f5, and it also makes my position breathe so much easier. We all know it's Collie. Yeah, I mean, sort of, but, you know, if you take the Fab 4, I think they're called, right? If you take the Fab 4, even among the Fab 4, it very much depends on current form. Like on current form after the India-England series, how do you take Collie over Root? But, you know, and then you have like Kane Williamson, who is just awesome all year round. And then you have Steve Smith, who is kind of good as well, so. And yeah, obviously, if you take all-rounders will be on a different plane of being. Like someone like Stokes on form is just unbelievable value for any team he plays for. After all the speeches I gave about how EF4 is horrible, I'm actually not winning anywhere near as hard as I was hoping to be winning. I think I'm still sort of winning, but it's a lot more of a fight than I wanted this to be or expected this to be. But I think this thing still, because I'm actually going to start giving mate on the G file pretty soon. It doesn't look like it, but I will. And then the fact that I allowed some counterplay along the G file is not going to count for very much. But yeah, whenever somebody asks me a cricket question in this chat, I get completely blown off any topic or like any game that I've been playing up until then. My plan was to just do this and announce that I'm a fun player and I want to do fun things. I guess my opponent wants bishop. I should have. I mean, I am a fun player in a poker sense of the word, I guess, where, you know, these days you're not supposed to call them fish or Rex or any of the other derogative terms, right? You're supposed to call them fun players. So I've become a fun player in chess, I guess. I was not expecting that. It's not the end. Like, I mean, this might work, but I'm not 100% sure it does work, honestly. I think knight takes e4. I might be in maybe not. Maybe I'm okay. It's kind of weird though, because like rook f7, knight f6 check, yeah? I think I'm in trouble. Maybe I can go rook takes e4 and king a1, but I think I'm in trouble. Because I specifically missed knight f6 discovered check when I went for this line. I mean, I missed many things in this game, but that was the last one I missed. So I think I have to do this. But yeah, who knows what this is. Like queen takes a2 exists, after which I will have to try to win some kind of an endgame, which is very, very close to an immediate draw. I suspect it still might be the best thing my opponent has, but maybe there's even something stronger. I don't see it though. I think queen a2 is forced, but there's f6 in the end. But I don't think he can greed here. Yeah, you have to go for this. And then I mean, I probably win this game on time, regrettably. Because my opponent found some very nice resources there. So it feels like I should be, you know, we definitely should be giving credit where credit is due here. This became a lot closer than it needed to. But we somehow persevered. Okay, let's play something off-label. So what's my repertoire here? I think I used to play knight c6 and then d6 in this position when I was... This was legit part of my repertoire in the yesteryear. People used to play d4, d5 against me more or less exclusively in this position, so I'm not entirely sure what I'm supposed to do against this. Maybe this is playable. I'll try it, but... yeah, not so sure this is great, honestly. Yeah, definitely not great after bishop e2. I'm not very happy with how this has gone. Because I don't know why you would take with the knight here, though. This is confusing me. I would be, like, if this were my position with the white pieces, I would be taking with the queen without a moment's hesitation. I don't think the knight belongs on g3. It's not horrible, but I don't think it actually belongs there. I sort of understand the reasoning, because it makes it harder for me to go knight h5 and then f5, but I would have been taking with the queen and then playing h3, castling kingside. I guess my opponent maybe wants to castle queenside, which is, I mean, definitely a plan, but not what I would have been doing in his spot. I'll play c5 here, because once again, the way my opponent positioned his pieces, their pieces, I guess, we don't know. Yeah, now the pawn on e4 is hanging, and it's kind of awkward to protect. So I'm gaining some time by doing this. This structure is not that much fun, but specifically because I now win some tempi. I kind of miss bishop g5, but I'm not really that heartbroken about the prospect of having two bishops here. I'll put the queen on b6. I'm not sure if it belongs on b6, but I'll put it on b6 nonetheless. I would have played queen d3 in my opponent's spot. Why not taking on f3 instead and going for some f5, f4? I kind of value this bishop. I don't like giving it up. I could have given it more thought, but mainly, I don't know which particular spot you mean, but I kind of value the light square bishop in King's Indian type positions. Too highly, maybe. So now we have to think about where my pieces should be. I think they should be d8 and c8. If I play rook fd8 here, it means I'm sort of giving up on the idea of playing f7, f5, at least for the time being. But I think we have to stabilize for now. Why didn't he take on d6? b2 was hanging. I don't think queen d6 was particularly good. I'm a bit surprised about h4. I don't think this is... Actually, the queen on b6 is just completely misplaced. It should be somewhere around here. So I will correct my previous play by dragging it over to the squares where it belongs. I should also be, like, maybe I should have just played b7, b5 in this position, but for now I just want the queen on e7 so that if the knight goes anywhere, I can play bishop g5, and then we can return to the idea of pushing for the b5 break. But my opponent definitely should be playing a4 at the earliest possible opportunity. So, yeah, I mean, if this continues being allowed, I am going to absolutely jump at the chance to play it. Rook ac1 is clever, I guess, but I can still do this. These trades actually, I think, favor me quite a bit, because I can take with the bishop, not losing the d6 pawn, and then the bishop can come to e6, and we can start pushing for the d6, d5 break. Would you say the Catalan is a gambit opening? It can be. It very much depends on what black plays in reply, because, like, the mainline Catalan, the pawn gets sacrificed for, you know, a move or two. It doesn't really count as a gambit there. I'll play bishop b7, because I don't, obviously, allowing the knight to land on d5 here would have been a problem. Our player's getting... First of all, we don't really know who this is. It might be some kind of a talented junior. So, you know, rating is not a very reliable indication of players' skill online these days. You know, could be a young player, who could be somebody who doesn't play very much on this particular platform. Hope that changes. hope these types of tournaments actually, provide an incentive for more players to play on this play zone. But like you never entirely know. Yeah, I've been kind of finessed here. I was not very unhappy about losing the a7 pawn because I thought I will play bishop c6, and after the trade, queen takes a7, there's e5, e4. But as I now realize, this guy is hanging, and this guy hanging is a much, much bigger problem for us, obviously. I really don't want to play bishop f3, though, so I'm now currently trying to find a way to sacrifice that pawn that makes any sense at all, and sort of failing, honestly. Sort of failing. I mean, King's Gambit is clearly playable. We have just had maybe the most emphatic, arguably the most emphatic proof that King's Gambit is playable was recently provided by Jan, who played it against Firouzja with, unqualified success. So, I mean, if you want to, it's definitely an opening you can try. Yeah, I'm just worse here. Not very much worse because bishops, but there's really no tactics at all. So we will just play a kind of a containing game. This is why I played a6, because I felt that I don't have any active or even pseudo-active moves available to me, so it's useful to not have this pawn hanging. So yeah, returning to the topic of the Catalan, the main lines are not really a gambit, but if black plays like an early d takes e4 followed by like knight c6, a6, rook b8, those lines very often do turn out to be full-blown gambits. I blundered knight g4 completely, and as usual, like I spotted it the moment I released the piece. I don't get mated straight away, but yeah, that wasn't very, very smart. I think I actually have to get the queens off, weirdly. Yeah, and this endgame is... I blundered knight b4. Jeez. Okay, this one is a lot more painful than all the previous blunders. Yeah, now we are in trouble. In very, very significant trouble. This is not good. That endgame wasn't like I was not even worse anymore, and then I blundered that move, and now I'm basically lost. To all intents and purposes, this is a lost position now. You can still kind of push things around, and my opponent doesn't have very much time. Yeah, I obviously should not be allowing any kind of bishop trades. So king d5 immediately allowing knight b6 check is just resignable. But it's sort of resignable anyway. But as you can see, even in a position like this, where I'm 2 pawns down for nothing, conversion is not guaranteed because of how strong the bishops are. Like, I'm probably now making a draw, honestly. I have a feeling I'm not losing this position if I play properly. Yeah, I'm not gonna try to flag my opponent here. I don't know where to put this guy. Let's put it here, maybe. And then f4, and then stand. Yeah, in the moment before check happens, we just make a very comfortable draw. Because they don't run. And at some point we will be able to... yeah, I'm kind of... I don't want to be, proven more of an idiot than I already am in this game. But I think this is still a comfortable draw, right? We go bishop d8 and then we go after the pawns. Would be a bit annoying to still lose this game, but I don't think I do. Yeah, I'm not going to try to flag my opponent, obviously. I'm okay with the draw in this game. The bishop went to that diagonal specifically so that my opponent's king could not cross over to d3. There was a point for me, like I could have chosen a different diagonal, but I wanted to keep the king sort of cut off from the queen side. If it's a kind of a weird statement, Asparov, because every single top player has played the Italian by this point, and I think my Italian is really no reason to get inspired. I try to copy other players, and I do it poorly as well. So there's a lot of extremely good Italian players out there right now. I mean, as in players of the Italian Opening, like Wesley has done some stellar work, and I mean, Magnus has been playing the Italian with great success. Everybody and their dog is an Italian player these days. And yeah, let's continue with the topic of the day. I'm still gonna castle queenside. The question is, do we want to play g3, bishop g2 immediately or afterwards? Both have merits, but I feel like starting with queen d2 is never a mistake. You can go knight d2, but I'm kind of interested in this structure. I think this structure is legit quite attractive for white. Yeah, I think Kramnik was one of the very first ones who started reviving the Italian, so to speak, about maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. He was definitely one of the early adopters. We are sort of threatening e5, g5 here. I don't know how big of a threat that is, but it definitely is something that my opponent needs to be paying attention to. The knight often goes to a4, which is why I think bishop d7 is actually not a stupid move at all. If you can push a5 and then kind of force me to go knight a4 and then push c5, you get to attack that knight. But generally, d7 takes away, like if you put the bishop there, you take away a square from your own pieces. So it's a mixed bag. And I can meet a5 with a4 if I want to. How to deal with an early h5 in these structures? You kind of switch to playing in the center. Although, depending on how slow the black setup is, you can play g3, h3, and then g4. Sometimes you actually do have enough time to do that. But mainly, I think, I would play something like, I don't know, bishop c4, rook he1, and start pushing for the e4, e5 break. So I'm apparently in 11th place right now in the arena. But I still don't know how many points I have. So I'm on 14 points. Sorry about the scrolling. I won't do it again. I just wanted to figure out once what I'm on. So how many games did I play? I think I made one draw, right? And I think I won 4, maybe 3, but I think 4. So yeah, I'm still not very clear on the scoring system. Opening the H file and now doing something on the king side is the time-honored tradition of how to beat the dragon. We can go queen h2. G5 knight h5. I'm going to be much better even then, but I would like to give mate in this game. e4 e5 is playable. Every single move here is playable. You can go bishop d4, knight c5, and then e5. So many attractive options. What's the story with Jan Gustafsson? ? Haha. Period. I don't understand the question, period, haha, haha, period. E6, e5, e6, I think wins material. So let's go with this. E6 still wins material, even if you don't play knight d7. That's a bit of a problem with the bishop on f7 having no squares. Yeah, queen h2 is also good, but I've kind of set my heart on winning the f7 bishop there. Yeah, it feels like I'm extremely unlikely to ever be featured on the first page of the scoring you can see on your screen on stream. People are just scoring too fast and too efficiently. Hey, Eileen. That's an interesting pairing. Normally, Eileen is the reason these shows run very smoothly. She's done a lot of production work for. I am not claiming a win against. Yeah, there's a sign here saying your opponent hasn't made a move within the forfeit time, and you can claim a win. I'm going to give Eileen to some time to reconnect or whatever. I don't feel like claiming a win against her would be a good idea here. Yeah, there's been a lot of Sicilians on both colors, seemingly. Love b3 after a6. I mean, it's not. It actually isn't very good. And if you look at it, although I mean, if the game doesn't start, let's do the usual and give the game another 15 seconds because, like, I need to be playing games. You watching me watch the starting position is probably not the most riveting content I could be providing. There we go. What do I think about the c3 Sicilian? The c3 Sicilian annoys me a great deal. I don't believe I have ever played it myself. And, okay, this is a problem. Because I don't know why they don't play queen f3 in this position. I'm not the world's biggest specialist on the system. As this is called. The system is also not very good, but that's completely beside the point. But yeah, queen f3 is not the most critical move there. The most critical move, of course, is e4, e5, which is actually very strong. But yeah, it would kind of help to actually know why they don't play this. I think rook c8 is a big mistake. I think I should have started with queen b6, attacking the knight on d4. Okay, I mean, now we know what to do, right? Gary would completely disown me if I didn't do this, right? There's no way Gary would continue speaking to me if I didn't play this. But yeah, my question was, like, is this enough of a threat? Probably not. Probably because I have rook takes c3 against anything. And I very much like f5, by the way, because the queen on a3 will be actually caught by the bishop on c1 now. But I do have e5, and then I can take on c3 and return this way. And strategically, my position is just extremely good. There are some knight e6 shenanigans in some positions, but I don't think this position is one of them. Also, what am I talking about? I can take this and go back to a4, and I'm completely safe on a4, right? I'm losing my mind here a little bit. I still think f5 was a decent try because the bishop on g5 kind of needs to be in the game somehow, but maybe I could have even taken with the pawn, yeah, because this is, I mean, I suspect d5 works, so it's not going to hurt too much, but it could be a bit of a problem. We can even spend a tempo on castling here just to connect our pieces completely, and then I will start cashing in the center. I can even, if I want to be really greedy, I can take on g5 first and then take on e4. So this will end up not being a mating attack, it will just be some kind of an endgame with a million extra pawns, which I should be converting under normal circumstances. How would you evaluate the theoretical state of the dragon Sicilian for black? It probably is fine. I don't know, but Anish has recorded the course on it, right? So Anish has recorded the course, which knowing Anish, I would trust what he's saying there very much. And I also think if he found the dragon to be completely unplayable, he probably wouldn't be recording a course on it. So I think the issue with the dragon mainly is that just as all the other, quote-unquote romantic openings, it is against a well-prepared opponent. It is not that romantic. You're still going to be fighting for equality without, too many immediate winning chances. But, I mean, that's true about every single opening, so I don't think this should be in any way disqualifying. I played the dragon for a long time because of the cool name, but I hated everything about it. Yeah, that's probably not the way to treat opening theory, You should probably be choosing openings on a slightly more sound basis rather than this opening has a cool name. I play the Scotch because I like Scotch whiskey. Yeah, then, the entire world would have been playing the Scotch under those particular parameters. I think there would be a lot of Scotch players among the top players. Let's not blunder this bishop. Kind of important. Yeah, this is, not the most exciting of the conversions. I'm just taking every single pawn I see, but it does do the job. What is the hillbilly, Pumpkin Cat? I'm very, very bad with obscure opening names. I'm not sure if it even exists. Maybe I'm getting debated here with the hillbilly. Nothing beats the Macallan opening. What do you what is this? What kind of a vanilla whiskey choice is this? I used to be a strictly Lafroy kind of guy, but these days I've at some point I decided to expand my choices, and now I probably go for Aberlour is my number one choice. Let's play something that is not a Sicilian. Perhaps it will be Sicilian with colors reversed. No, it won't be. I've never lived in Britain. I've not even been to Britain since, I think, 2013, which is very much cause for regret. I would very much like to visit London. I've actually not done this particularly well, because after knight bd7, if I allow e7, e5, black gets the type of the King's Indian that I played myself when I was a kid, and white played a move h2, h3, which is arguably actively bad. There's a decent amount of positions where having a pawn on h3 in a King's Indian is actively detrimental to your chances. e6, queen e7 is not how you should be playing these positions, though. I'm going for something slightly exciting, potentially. This is not a particularly good move, honestly. Although, yeah, maybe it's not bad. I was planning to play bishop g5, but I can also just play bishop f4 here. Although c5, knight c6 kind of worries me a little bit. But I have replies to that. But yeah, I could have gotten more. I just wanted to... sort of liven things up and just generally open the position up a little bit. But instead of e5 here, I can just continue developing. Like bishop g5 is a perfectly good move. There's a lot of things I could have done in that position. And as a result, what I have now is, I mean, slightly better for white, but completely playable for black, actually. I've sort of ruined my position. And I feel like, yeah, that's not a very good move, though. I feel like my original plan of just playing bishop g5 here and trying to give up the pawn on e5 for development would have led to a more fun position. Hillbilly is a variation in the Caro. Possibly, I just don't know which one. Led Zeppelin. As mentioned, I, once we depart from, the mainstream opening names, I am absolutely useless at knowing which bizarre variation name corresponds to which opening. I'm even out of the top 10, and yeah, not really setting the world on fire. I think you're kind of supposed to play faster and try to maybe finish the games on more time than you started with, which I'm sort of doing in this game. But I really have to wonder how the leader of the tournament has 38 points. Because that implies a volume of games played that I just don't understand how you realistically play this many games. Huh, I'm apparently on the main page now. Shockingly. 16 points off the lead, which is very, very funny. Me and Artemiev on 22 points, which is, I'm in good company at least. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I understood streaks, but that's still that's a very, very long streak. Of all the variants, Grand 960, Various Fairy, which is your favorite? Very easy question for me to answer, because I do know what 960 is, and I don't know what all the others are. So, I mean, it's very difficult for me to choose something I not only have never played, but also don't really know the rules of. This is somebody strong, a 2500 player. The first one we've encountered this tournament, I think. That's a bit annoying, though, because it allows for very comfortable equality, this move. But we don't really want very comfortable equality, because that particular very comfortable equality also is very, very boring to play. So instead, I'm doing something which, honestly, I kind of hate. And don't really know how to play properly, but at least the positions will not be, entirely symmetrical here. This move, I think I should be welcoming, because it gives me this very useful pin. And now we have a choice. I can win the pawn on d4 and try to hang on to it, or what I will do is I will play this, and I will also interpose rook e8 just to fight for the open file. Then we will take on b2 next move, and then we will take dc5, and I will have a very, very nice blockading square on d6, and the knight can go to either d6, or maybe I can put the queen on d6 and put the knight on d4. So we are immediately slightly better with black here. It's maybe not very much, but you most certainly prefer black in this position. The question is if, against good defense, it might not be enough to win the game, but every reason to be satisfied with the outcome of the opening here. Endgames are going to be fun. Like, if I could find a way here to get the queens off, I think I would be extremely happy. But even with the queens on, I could throw in a7, a5, just to make it harder for my opponent to shake the knight from the d4 square, just preparing to put the knight on d4 and then play b6. A kind of a useful prophylactic move. Just set up this structure so that the knight on d4 gets properly established. I can even maybe spend time on king f8 and then trade all the rooks off. I don't know how easy that endgame is to win, but it's definitely very, very nice for black. So is b4 a threat? Like, do I have to react to my opponent trying to prepare b3, b4 in this position is the question. I can go b5, b4 myself, fix the pawn on b3. If the bishop gets to c4, it will become harder to win. But if I allow b4, like, too much material comes off, I think, if I allow it. So I will actually try to actively stop it from happening. And it's not that easy for my opponent to get this bishop from g2 to c4, because the pawn on d5 is going to be hanging constantly. I have to pay attention so that I don't blunder the pawn on a5 at any point, but I think it's possible to work out a way to do that. The king can go to b6, for instance, and then we can start activating our pieces. This is actually a lot more annoying. This endgame is a lot more annoying for white than it might look at first glance, because this is weak. Even if the bishop gets all the way to c4, I'm not sure white achieves full equality. And yeah, I'll play h5, because I actually want my opponent to play h4 here. I don't want the pawn to be on g4 is my point, because this is part of my plan is this. Potentially. Although it's difficult to realize as I now, looking at the position now, why didn't I play h5, h4? I could have played h5, h4 there, and I definitely should have. I will play it next move if my opponent continues giving me that opportunity. But yeah, that was kind of stupid. Yeah, like, you need to do this. But now, yeah, I need to be careful, because I've not done this right, and Yeah, I've created issues for myself. I realize now that if I get the king to b6, I thought I can get the king to b6, then play queen e5, knight f5, knight d6. But the point is, the moment the knight leaves this square, queen d5 check will become an issue, which I sort of underappreciated originally. Okay. I'm not doing this particularly well. Knight b3 was running into queen e3 check, so I'm not doing that. But I think we will have to just do the old, the old shuffle, 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 shuffle kind of a plan, where maybe we're not making any kind of immediate progress, but as long as you continue asking some weird questions, your opponent eventually might make a mistake. But yeah, the knight needs to be on d6. For me to win this game, I think the knight needs to be on d6. Whoa, that's actually a really, really horrible misclick. I was planning to go king f6. That is just, like, horrendous. But I will start doing something on the king side now, having been forced into this plan. I will have to do this. But yeah, that was just a straight up horrible, horrible misclick for no reason. Queen e8, h4. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why my opponent refuses to make active moves. f4 is maybe not that stupid. I should be, yeah, like, let's not allow queen a6 with check. I'm also maybe threatening knight takes b3 now. Queen h7 is, how big of a threat is queen h7? Big-ish, yeah. Can we do this? Okay. Yeah, I mean, the fact that I played f6 in that position is really bugging me. Like, my kingside got destroyed simply because I once again proved to be incapable of operating a mouse, which in 2021 is really not the greatest. Not sure about that move. Let's give some random checks and see how my opponent reacts. Maybe I can play g4 and that creates additional threats, and also it gives me the g5 square for the king. We appear to be winning, but yeah, that was kind of very, very unconvincing. Okay. What I was planning to do is not very clean, but I can just play g4. Yeah, there's no real need for me to be fancy. So we end up getting there, but yeah, that wasn't a very good conversion. But it also, I think, illustrates just how difficult it is to play these types of positions where, queen and knight are just so much stronger, in particular in blitz. Are you going to see The Sopranos prequel in theaters? Did not have any kind of set plans on that topic, but maybe. Possibly. This is a very heavily theoretical position, obviously. After knight b3, you can play even the immediate c5, but what my opponent is doing kind of transposes to the old main line with knight e7, and then after castles, you can play bishop h7, you can play g5, there's all kinds of things you can try in this position. G5 probably being the main one these days. It's not supposed to be great, but It's also not supposed to be easy to refute. Both of those things can very easily be true at the same time. I'm not entirely convinced about my last move, but it's playable. It's not going to be horrible, but I'm not altogether convinced. I'll play a4 just to make sure I never blunder this bishop, because I was kind of worried about a5, b5 counterplay. And now with the bishop on a3, I no longer have to worry about it. And my plan is like knight e1, bishop d3. And eventually black pushes f6, we have to take. And yeah, rook e8, this is the first move I kind of really don't like from my opponent in this game. I don't think this rook belongs on e8 in very many situations in life. Although I can see why he would like to, unpin it. And now maybe play knight f5. But I just don't think this is, very much in keeping with what black generally tries to achieve in these lines. I do have to worry about f7, f6, though. I can play f4 myself, but it gets kind of messy, and the bishop on a3 is arguably somewhat misplaced. Let's play like a kind of a holding move for now and see what transpires. Yeah, I'm not that worried about the c6, c5 break. With the inclusion of those two moves, I can go knight c2, knight e3, but that allows c5, c4, right? So we do have to maybe address those issues. Let's maybe go knight g2 for now. Actually, f4 allows knight e3, right? So that's not great. I haven't played the last few moves particularly well. I will say this. Knight e3 exists here with bishop takes d3 to follow, but I'm not that unhappy. I'm just unhappy with the direction I've chosen over the past few moves. I think my opponent definitely made, much more of an obvious progress has been achieved for black here rather than for white. But the issue is, like, the underlying position is still, very healthy for white, and it's very easy to, allow me to activate my pieces, and then things will start blowing up. Knight f3, knight e5, I think, is reasonable. I will also probably want to play bishop b5 at some point. I could have done it on a previous move even, but yeah. I think now we go back. And the bishop will be coming out via this side. Is g5, g4 a threat? Probably not. So, I mean, is e5 a threat, though? Maybe e5 is a threat here, and then maybe knight e3 is useful. My opponent offered me a draw here. I don't see why that would be interesting for me. I don't think I stand worse. And I don't think, the format of this event, allowing knight g4 is definitely not the way to go here. This knight needed to be captured when it was on e3. Allowing knight g4 just instantly makes black's position quite suspect. You can maybe still continue, pushing with, I think this is the right choice, but the position, clearly has become much worse than it was. And I think I can win some material here if I want to. I'm just trying to figure out what is the most I can get, because I would like to get the most out of this. And there's a number of very attractive options here, but I'll just go with the materialistic one. After knight d5, knight takes f6 seems attractive just to lure the king to f6, but I don't actually win more there, so I'll just go with this. I don't think I'm missing anything here. It feels like it's not very much, but it's an important pawn. It breaks up the black structure. The bishop will return to f1. I don't think there's any kind of an attack on the king side here. I think my king side is perfectly safe in most cases. And then we can just, proceed to I mean, my one big issue here is the bishop on a3, which currently isn't really doing very much, but the moment it returns into the game, we are immediately kind of winning. Yeah, this is a reasonable idea, but since it doesn't actually create any threats because of the pin, we can ignore it for now. And continue. I missed rook c8 actually, but rook c8 I can go rook e1, so it's not a huge miss. I also missed this move, but I think I'm very okay with this. And am I? Like, I can go rook e1, I can also go rook d1. But then after rook c8, I need to find a good move. I can also just go c takes d4, honestly. But I don't like the allowing knight takes d4. Let's just play this. It's a bit boring, but it's, I think, a reasonable practical choice. Yeah, the issue here is that rook takes c3 is not actually being threatened because of bishop b2, so you know, we get to keep our extra pawn for now, and yeah, continue pressing. I think I can play. Can I though? I should be playing faster. One thing we know for sure from past experiences is that I should definitely be playing faster. Let's just take on b6. I was kind of tempted to play c4 there, but it's not required. I completely blundered that this rook had this square. And now knight c4 is a threat. Yeah, I've not done this particularly well, but we should still be winning. Let's take this guy as well, because why not? Collect absolutely everybody. Go bishop f1, because we're extremely greedy bastards. This is going to hurt, yeah. This is going to hurt. Words cannot describe properly just how annoyed am I at myself. I could have just taken on a5 there. I just sort of, I tuned out, as I often do in situations like this. I kind of just tuned out because the game was, you know, effectively over, and I didn't really want to care about it anymore. Bishop h3 actually wins some material which I didn't see. What? I don't know what happened there. This might still be a draw though, but like my rook endgame knowledge is not what it should be. I don't think it is a draw though. The king just runs towards this side, and I think with the king cut off on the back rank. Oh, God. Yeah, okay. That's weird because I was pretty sure it wasn't my move. I noticed it was my move kind of late. That's a weird bug, like a brain. I actually had this today. Today is apparently a 5-year celebration of me not realizing it was my move. So I'm doing a tribute, basically. What I just did there is a tribute to that wonderful time when I didn't realize it was my move. Yeah, that was completely unnecessary. I would have won that game. I would have won that game, and I would have been slightly happy. Well, slightly happier, anyway. I used to play a lot of this system with white when I was like 14, 15. But I obviously don't really remember any theory anymore. It's not as innocuous as it might look. It's not a world beater, but it's not as innocuous as you might think. I was so sure it was still his move. That's just so bizarre. I think the moral of the story is when you're playing an endgame where both of you have like 5 seconds, maybe don't draw arrows and don't explain plans and just make moves instead. I think that might be a reasonable takeaway. I'm not sure. I'm a bit flustered right now, so I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing is any good. Like, I probably should go knight f6 here, but it's boring, so I'll go knight f4 instead. But I'm not happy about any of this. I think I kind of have to play knight g6 in order not to lose material. Because knight takes e5. Yeah, I could have played rook e7, knight e5, knight g2 maybe. But this is also okay. Yeah, top 8 would have been cool, but I probably completely torpedoed my own chances of a top 8 here, Jake. In true, this was very clippable because, like, seriously, today I was alerted to a Reddit post dedicated to me claiming my opponent is not there when I was playing white in the banter blitz. And like I waited for my opponent to make a move for like half a minute and then said my opponent clearly isn't here, so let's start a new one. And then somebody in chat informed me that I was white and I was really supposed to make a move. And that was a glorious moment of absolute idiocy. And I think since today is the anniversary of that glorious day, it is very on brand for me to do, a version of the same, but in a tournament setting and kind of costing more and annoying me even more. Because I will say I get a little bit annoyed by draw offers in blitz games in positions where there's a lot of play left. Because I don't quite see why the draw is being offered there. So for me, this was really, I think, the first game in this tournament where I felt that there was something at stake. Because I felt that, that draw offer needs to be punished. And I ended up losing that game on time in true boomer fashion for no reason whatsoever. So yeah. Not my favorite little interaction today. Yeah, that's a bit of an oof, Cy Bradbury. # no context. Yeah, as the quote goes, yeah, the self-loathing is strong, but was strong with me that day. I should maybe. First couple of seasons of Californications were good TV. But there's so much other TV to watch that I probably will not return to it. But they were good TV. I'm less sure about the later seasons, though. Yeah, I mean, it's not an experience unique to me, Clown Basket, but losing a game on time because your opponent made a move and you just continue talking and waiting for him to make a move is a kind of a, a new version of that timeless classic. Like, of all the stupid ways of losing a Blitz game, this, I feel, has to count quite highly. This is a bit passive for black. I played a3 just to stop knight b4 from happening. Obviously, knight d4, queen d4 runs into bishop h7, and it's just generally quite difficult for black to develop pieces to any kind of good squares. It feels like I haven't really gotten much out of the opening, but this is like an absolutely perfect Petrov, and this move is just a blunder, which immediately derails my opponent's game. Yeah, when you play with no sound, it's much more understandable, but I'm actually playing with the sound on, and then you have absolutely no excuse. Playing with the sound on and still doing this is just, like, bizarre. You really, really shouldn't be doing it. Let's do some potential hashtag sellout and see where that leads me. Ha. Okay. How about that? What do we know about that, Mr. Daniel Jr.? This is yet another of those Dubov concoctions which look like they might be losing by force, but I don't think they do. Dubov has so many really weird, really interesting ideas in the Grunfeld. It's not even funny. The man is seemingly like on a mission to reinvent the opening all by his lonesome. The question is, do we go back or do we include h5? h5 here, but I think just like forcing white to make the move c4 takes d5 is unnecessary. Do I have a good reply to queen b3? Do I have a good reply to this? Very important questions I don't have an answer to. So we got some kind of a really weird version of a very well-known position with pawn on h4 and castles not played yet. I don't think bishop c4 was the strongest move. I think maybe queen b3 was more principled. I also, basically, I looked at this bishop g4 c5 line once in my life, maybe 5 years ago. So I don't remember a single thing, which is not helping. But I think my position now should be playable-ish. The pawn on h4, despite looking somewhat weird, is going to be annoying as usual because, for instance, if white goes something like bishop e3, I would like to castle, but but castle, I mean, if I castle into h5 straight away. I'm a bit confused why I was given that pawn, considering the fact that there is no immediate compensation for it that I can see. And it really wasn't forced by events. I think I should play h5 just to make sure I don't have to worry about it for later. There's definitely an argument that this is just a waste of a tempo, but even if it is, it's a kind of a waste of a tempo I like. I wanted to play e6, but allowing bishop g5 with a tempo doesn't really strike me as a particularly good idea. So I'm doing it one move later just so that I don't have to worry about my rook immediately getting attacked. Yeah, and now we can hopefully consolidate. Can even play f6 maybe if I wanted to. Rook c7 is a move. This is, as usual, when you have positions like this where the two bishops are fighting against the two knights, you're never entirely in control. Like, all of this looks fine, but I really do need to trade some pieces. Like, if I get all the rooks off the board, for instance, or even one pair of rooks and the king, I don't know, gets to e6, for instance, I will be a lot happier about life. But the way things are, while there's this amount of material still untraded, you are never entirely in control. You still have to be very, very careful not to blunder some tactics somewhere. Knight before check. Was knight before check just winning on the previous move? Maybe it was, yeah. I even saw that it existed, and then I decided not to bother calculating it, which is a bit stupid, you have to say. Let's continue expanding. Also, using the tactical reasoning that f3 is ill-advised right now for white, so maybe I get to push e5, e4. Yeah, having sort of secured the control over the light squares, I'm feeling much more confident because this knight now can go to like e5, f3 if I wanted to go there. Let's go a6 because I want to play knight e5, but I don't want to calculate bishop b5. Feels like that just is not necessary for me to get involved with. Okay. Those are reasonable moves by my opponent. I quite like those. Let's offer some trades. And also, obviously, bishop d4 is the plan here for white, so I'm preemptively fighting against it by preparing the knight. E7, c6 move. Yeah, now the question is, how do we make progress? We've obviously achieved quite a bit, but you still have to find a way into the white position here somehow. For now, I'm just kind of asking the question. I'm asking, you know, where do you want your pieces to be? This forces bishop c1, and then we get knight d3 because knight a3 check is now. I mean, I'm trading one of the bishops now, and once I've traded one of the bishops away, this should be a comfortably winning position. And in the meantime, I think the arena ended, so I don't think I got my top 8. Also, let's not blunder bishop b5 check, right? I almost did it on the previous move, but repeating the mistake on this move would have been even more stupid than usual. Is the pawn ending winning? I think it might be. I'm not 100% sure, but I think the pawn ending is winning for me, so I'm asking the same question of my opponent. He does not seem to believe me, but yeah, I think this is winning. Maybe he could have played a3 earlier, but I think I have enough tempis in reserve here to be winning quite comfortably. And yeah, that was let's scroll down and see the final standings. That last game I played against Daniel Jr., right? So we beat the person who finished second, but yeah, just out of the top 8. I did get into the top 10 somehow, but that's not a huge achievement. And yeah, that loss a couple of games ago, where I just continued talking while my clock ticked down, was very costly. It would have maybe allowed me to finish in the top 5. But as you know, as things go, I'm not that heartbroken about it. Honestly, it's not the most important thing in the world. Congratulations to El Guatemalteco and Lequan in third. I'm not entirely sure who Daniel Jr. is, and I'm not sure how to check because you can't. At least I can't figure out a way to click on the profile that would open the profile. But yeah, fun event as usual. I like these banter type events. I hope you enjoyed watching it. When I get to play the next one, I hope I do better. But as a first try, I think this was okay. Need to pay more attention to streaks, I guess, is the biggest takeaway. Yeah, thanks for watching. I think that concludes the entertainment for today.